Can we drill down into that healthcare use case a little bit as much as
Sure.
you're able to? Yeah, I'd like to learn a little bit more about the challenges the customer was trying to solve for, aside from the licensing renewal that was
Mhm,
coming up. Like, a lot of healthcare organizations want to stay on-prem as
mhm.
much as possible, and they have Epic systems, and those are starting to be migrated to the cloud. And so you mentioned you were doing kind of a TCO analysis with them, where it sounded like you were helping them think through what does it cost to keep this thing on premise
Yeah.
versus going to a cloud.
This customer came along and said, um, again, we're receiving our cost increase bill. This thing's pretty big and we just can't. This isn't going to work for us. Um, and so I need to figure out what to do and what alternatives I have. And originally, like, hey, we don't want to leave the prem. And that's fine. We actually will deliver on the customer prem our system. We did not in this case because it turns out there were lots of reasons they might not want to, and so we had that conversation. But so we could actually deal with either one of those situations. In this case, we didn't. We sat down and talked to them about if you're gonna hardware refresh, yes. Now what hardware are you gonna buy? We think this. Okay, so what does that cost? About X amount of dollars up front we got to pay. Great. Got your CapEx cost for hardware. This is about how much power that draws, right? If it's utilized at 50%, which was about where their stuff was being utilized when we looked at the graphs. We said, so you're going to draw X amount of power, and your power cost is Y, so this is your monthly power bill for the hardware. What about your other stuff? Are you replacing the switches? Are you replacing what the firewalls? What else is in your system that totals up your actual, right, your stack, your server stack? And then they said, well, we got email off prem. Great. So that's going to get out of there. Awesome. Because, right, they're starting to look at all these other services. And then they said, we need to make sure compliance is met and security is met. And we said, well, if you're inside of the four walls of a data center, then somebody hands you your SOC audit, somebody hands you all these audits, and you turn them in. Say, I'm in a facility that meets every compliance you've asked for. Great. You actually don't have to physically do the audits anymore. What does that cost you? We'll go look at that. We're ISO certified. So we'll have your ISO certification on all of our procedures for touching any of your stuff. Great. So now your third party company can't harm you that way, right? You're meeting all these compliances. Um, what do you need? What does it that is more than just the hardware or more than just the VMware software that it actually is your product that you deliver to the doctors and the nurses and the administration staff and everybody who is actively using this infrastructure, your billing platform, everything, right? And they still do, a lot of hospitals still do a ton of faxing. So like, well, we have to make sure the fax server and that software migrates, and it has to migrate in a special way. And, so we go through that process and understand it. On top of all of those components, it is, how do you actually work? Well, if we get a phone call, one of us goes to the office, and there's four of us today, and we go in and we do the work. So 2 in the morning on a Friday, guess what? We get up, we go in, right? So, well, we'll eliminate all that. So one, you can either have us do the work, or two, um, you can use this IPMI access that's secure and go in and do the work. This essentially backdoor access to your facility. Okay. And you start talking about how everything they actually do and where they can do it from and how they can interact with their environment. And then, so what's your backup? Well, we keep backups here. What's that cost? Okay, well, the platform already has backups built in, so you can get rid of that software and you get rid of that cost. Right. So in our cost, we start to show how all these other tertiary costs that people don't consider actually get absorbed into a single platform. What's your DR strategy? Are you using high availability with VMware? Well, no, we know it exists, but we never really set it up. And they're a hospital. This is actually a really great feature if they're using it. So then we're like, well, we'll build the run book and the management book, and we'll do co-management with you and help you with all these things. And so all these other best practices start to emerge, and the staff goes, and the system, what happens if this happens? Does your system just automatically make a decision and keep you up? Well, no, that's not what we did. Well, we'll make sure all that is done. Right. And so we go through the process of, it's more than just the hardware cost. It's, are you set up correctly? Does your DR work, and have you tested it? Do you know where your backups are and how to use them? Um, are you having fun with your 9 logins yet? right? Because that is a thing. It is a terrible thing with a lot of those systems that get built. Um, and would you like to just have one place to go in and do your work, and you can do it from anywhere, and it's highly secure, and you deliver everything to the auditors that they can ever ask for, and you can retire, and your staff has a great system to work in, and they're happy, right? Because we found out that this particular person was within a couple years of retirement, right? And so it is really about solving the business problem, the whole ecosystem, and delivering an outcome, right? And the outcome was I want people to be able to do the work they need to do, but I don't want to keep overworking them. And I don't want to have all these places where I'm unsure and I have to have auditors do audits. I just want all that stuff to go away. And I just want to be able to hand it to somebody as a packet and call it a wonderful day. And so it's really delivering that most of the providers like them, or most of the hospitals are looking for. And one of the reasons they don't leave the prem is they're afraid of once it leaves the prem, they now have to go to that place to go get the data. And they still have all these others. We're in the middle of another one that's the same, and the outcome is almost identical.